Are you tired of dealing with the complexities of managing your on-premises infrastructure? Do unpredictable maintenance costs and resource limitations keep you up at night? If so, I'd love to show you how migrating your applications to Azure App Service can remediate those headaches you have with infrastructure management, allowing you to focus on what matters most, building awesome applications to provide business value. What I love about Azure App Service is that it simplifies your cloud deployments and increases your agility with built-in features for CI/CD, elastic scale, and easy integration to cross-cutting solutions for things like logging, identity management, performance monitoring, and error handling. Azure App Service is one of the largest services on Azure with over 5 million apps, over 4 trillion hits per month, and an average of 228% ROI when modernizing apps with Azure PaaS. Over the next few minutes, I will walk you through my 3 recommended steps to get your applications running on Azure App Service. As you see here, I will be referencing a sample Tomcat-based Java application for an online bookstore with a dependency on a MySQL database to handle the persistence of books and its metadata. Before migrating your applications to Azure App Service, you need to assess the compatibility, performance, and cost of running on Azure infrastructure. The Azure Migrate tool is a great way to help you with this process. It is a free service that analyzes your on-premises servers and applications and provides insights and recommendations for migration. To use Azure Migrate, you will need to install an appliance within your on-premise environment and register it with your Azure subscription. Then you can discover and assess your applications using the Azure Migrate portal. You will get a report that shows the readiness, sizing, and cost estimation of your workload for Azure App Service. This is helpful when determining which app service plan and SKU to use. Once you have an assessment of your infrastructure, you need to assess your application code to evaluate application readiness for replatforming and migration to Azure. For this, we will use aka.ms, a command line tool from Azure Migrate, to assess Java application binaries and source code to identify replatforming and migration opportunities. It helps you modernize and replatform large-scale Java applications by identifying common use cases and code patterns and proposing recommended changes. aka.ms discovers application technology usage through static code analysis, supports effort estimation, and accelerates code replatforming, helping you move Java applications to Azure. With a set of engines and rules, it can discover and assess different technologies such as Java 11, Java 17, Jakarta EE, Quarkus, Spring, and so on. It then helps you replatform the Java application to different Azure PaaS and container services. In this demo, we will be targeting Azure App Service. Once aka.ms finishes the assessment, you can then load the report in your browser. What you see here is the assessment dashboard, illustrating the incidents found from the assessment. I really like this view. If you are familiar with Agile methodology, it categorizes all the assessment incidents and assigns story points, a unit of measure for tracking and scoping the work needed to address them. If we visit the Issues tab, we can drill into the incidents and details and options for addressing. As seen here, there is a mandatory incident for a local JDBC call. Clearly, we need to consider what to do with our MySQL database. Do we leave it on-prem and access via hybrid connection from Azure? Perhaps an express route, or even better, a cloud-native offering for our database, keeping it network close on the Azure backbone. Nonetheless, we need to address this one, otherwise our application running in Azure App Service won't have any data. As you scroll through, you'll see things for optional incidents. For example, static content found. Perhaps we could leverage a content delivery network for our static content, keeping our application package footprint smaller and our static content on the edge for faster delivery. Potential incidents for configuration, things like passwords, perhaps these should reside in Azure App Service configuration, Key Vault, things of that nature. Cloud optional for session state. Sure, we can enable session affinity in Azure App Service, but perhaps we consider externalizing the session state with something like a Redis cache. The rest are informative, and you get the idea. Really nice way for getting a full understanding of your migration considerations. After assessing your infrastructure and application code, you are now ready to migrate to Azure App Service. There are many ways to get your application deployed. However, I love the Azure App Service Landing Zone Accelerator for this. The accelerator uses infrastructure as code to deploy a typical hub and spoke landing zone for your application to slot into. With this model, all of the heavy lifting and configuring of your hub and spoke is taken care of for you. And even cooler, all of your resources are protected and all traffic to your application is only routable through private endpoints. You can configure your resources here. For example, you select the app service plan that best fits your assessed infrastructure and the operating system, Windows or Linux. For this demo, I am using the defaults. Once your resources from the accelerator are provisioned, you will have a newly configured Azure App Service with a default Azure App Service landing page for your users among many other Azure resources in your hub and spoke deployment. What I love about Azure App Service is that you can deploy both code artifacts such as jars, wars, and even Docker images. Since we are deploying a WAR file for our Tomcat-based app, we need to configure App Service for this stack. In the App Service configuration settings, we can specify our language, Java, .NET, Python, etc., and the versions and app server that the online bookstore app will run on. If you are familiar with Docker, these are essentially layers of the Docker image that App Service will take care of for you. And if you do not see a configuration that fits your needs, you can also consider building a Docker image with all of the layers needed for your application. We will also enable basic auth publishing so we can push our packages. Out of scope for this demo is configuration of Azure Front Door or a partner service to provide OAuth-based protection. For this demo, I am enabling public access to the app service so we can deploy to and test it from a browser directly over the open internet. After using Maven to compile your online bookstore package locally, you are now ready to issue a web app deployed from your workstation and publish your application to Azure. After a few short moments, as seen in this demo, the default Azure App Service Java landing page in App Service gets replaced with the online bookstore WAR, and we are now up and running in Azure. In this video, we walk through the 3 recommended steps for getting your applications migrated to Azure App Service. Step 1, assessment of your infrastructure that your applications run on. Step 2, assessment of your application code. And Step 3, migration of your application code. Thank you for watching.